I think this guy might be guilty of some copyright infringement because, what the hell? What the hell, my man? Trying to steal my f***ing beard? I don't know. And his is blonder, too. Well, what's up with that? And he's got a cosmic background, you know, but it kind of looks very similar to what I got back there, honestly. You know, a lot of purples and, you know, those kind of colors. And but this guy, quite the opposite of me, is a Christian guy. In fact, he's got a video here called How to Witness to Atheists, Bible Answers with Pastor Joe. So this is Pastor Joe. All right, Pastor Joe, if I defeat whatever argument you're about to lay out, you have to shave your beard and stop infringing upon my copyright. That is the agreement here, yes? I take you at your word, sir. Let's do this. Yeah, this is Timu TJ.
I am so pumped to be talking about today's questions. It is one of my favorite ones.
Me too. I am also pumped, sir. God damn, am I pumped to be talking about whatever we're talking about today. In fact, I'm so pumped that I'm going to set these headphones down and turn the volume up and just use them as speakers because I am so pumped that the pressure of them on my ears will make my head explode if I kept them on. So we're going to do it this way instead. Let's hear more from Pastor Joe, shall we?
And I'm going to share my secret weapon with you, so hang on to your hats for that.
I don't know. If a dude named Pastor Joe shows up wearing that hat and he tells you he's going to show you his secret weapon, you should probably get out of there. I mean, I wouldn't, but only because he looks a lot like me and I could maybe live out some of those clone fantasies I have occasionally, but most of you should probably run at that point. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly.
But let's look at how to witness to an atheist.
Right.
And like I said, I'm going to share my secret weapon with you on this from the Bible that I think is really going to change the way you approach atheists. But if you came here looking for help, you're trying to witness to an atheist, I'm glad you're...
What does it mean to witness to an atheist? That just means tell them about the gospel? That's what witness means in this context. Because, I mean, anybody can tell anybody about the gospel, right? Like, you can always witness to a person. Is this about how to convince an atheist? Is this about how to make an atheist believe in the gospel? Or is it just how to tell the atheist about the gospel? Because all you have to do to tell them about the gospel is tell them. So I'm not really sure what witness means in this context. Because I've always understood witness to just mean that you are, you know, recounting the events of the gospel. But apparently that's not it, because there's a trick to it. And I thought the trick to telling someone a thing was just telling them the thing. But apparently there's more to it than that.
You're here. Let's talk about it. So, jumping right into this, an atheist is someone that doesn't believe there is a God. That is the...
I've never heard of such a thing. What kind of crazy person would not believe in a magical man in the sky that controls the universe and has a set of rules for a particular set of primates on a random rock in the middle of the infinite vastness of space?
The definition of an atheist. But let me tell you something that you need to understand going into. And I don't suggest you start a conversation with this, but it's knowledge that you...
All right, is this going to be... What's he going to say? Let's just all predict... I feel like I know it. I feel like he's about to say, but let's be real, there's no such thing as an atheist. That's going to be it, right? Maybe he'll throw me for a loop, but I've been doing this a long time, and I'm pretty sure I sense there's no such thing as an atheist coming.
You need to interpret this well. First of all, as I like to tell people, the A in atheist stands for angry. Here's the thing.
Hey, look. Got me. Fair enough. You know, hey, look, broken clock is right twice a day. And this guy got me because I am, in fact, angry. That's true. I do experience anger. That is an emotion that I do possess as a human being.
No one doesn't believe there's a God.
Oh, well, there he is. There you go. There you go. There it is. No one doesn't believe there's a God. No one. I love this nonsense so much. I love the idea that it's just so, I mean, it's just like, I got to think of a way to explain to a Christian how dumb this sounds to me. It'd be like if I went to him and was like, no one doesn't believe in goblins. Come on. You mean to tell me you don't believe in unicorns? That's how it feels to me. Because I assure you, I do not believe in God. Now, does that mean I have no consideration of the possibility that there might be some sort of force or entity or something out there that has power or maybe some form of dominion or maybe even some form of concern? Is that impossible to me? No. But is there any reason to believe that? Also, no. I do not think that there is an entity out there that is serving this God function for us. And if there is such an entity, if it does turn out that it exists, there's virtually no chance whatsoever that it is the Christian conception of God or the Muslim or the Jew or whatever. These are, I mean, like, it would be an amazing freaking coincidence that, oh, the actual God out there that we just discovered, it turns out, completely coincides with this obviously made-up story about a magic carpenter being nailed to some wood. It just so happens. Come on. Ridiculous nonsense.
In fact, this is why we don't have anti-leprechaun or anti-unicorn clubs.
No. The reason we don't have anti-leprechaun clubs or anti-unicorn clubs is because no one tries to use a belief in unicorns or leprechauns to justify dominion over their fellow man. If there were people out there right now actively saying, we believe in unicorns and unicorns are the moral arbiters of humanity, and if you don't obey the unicorns, you're going to the bad place, and the unicorn's going to come stab you with its horn if you don't listen to us, and only we can see and communicate with the unicorns because we're the special chosen of the unicorns, and here's what the unicorns want you to do, and if you don't do it, you're bad, and we need to pass laws in favor of what the unicorns want, and you need to give me money because the unicorns want that too. If all of that stuff was happening, you're goddamn right. There would be some anti-unicorn clubs. If there were a bunch of people going around trying to rule their fellow man with fear of the leprechaun, then you're goddamn right. There would be some anti-leprechaun clubs as well. So don't give me this nonsense. You know, it's not a one-to-one comparison. There are people out there using the concept of God to gain dominion over their fellow man here on earth. That is why there are avowed atheists on this planet and not avowed anti-unicornists, because everyone can see unicorns are plainly not real. Everyone can see leprechauns are plainly not real, but for some reason, a massive contingent of people on this planet cannot say the same thing about God. And I think that a lot of the reason that is the case is because it's been so ingrained culturally that you must believe in God. It's been so savaged, the notion that you should even question God. If you question God, you know, you're a bad person, or you know, you're going to hell, or your soul is under the threat of some sort of terrible retribution. No one says that about unicorns. if you express doubts in unicorns, no one is like, oh, you better watch out. The unicorns might get you. But if you express doubt in God, people will definitely say that. You know, so these are just very different sort of mythologies here. They're treated very differently by society. So expecting the reaction to them from people like me to be the same is an unreasonable expectation, sir. And I feel at this point in the discussion, I have firmly won, and you must now shave that ridiculous caricature of my beard off of your face. Thank you.
Because everyone knows leprechauns and unicorns don't exist. And
sure.
So we don't create...
Just like we all know God doesn't exist. But certain people have to pretend that he does in order to maintain power and control over their fellow man or to stave off the fear of death.
Whole social clubs and organizations dedicated to letting little girls and little boys know that there's no such thing as unicorns. There's no...
Well, because we don't have to do that, because there's not a bunch of idiot adults going around trying to indoctrinate them into thinking there are unicorns and leprechauns.
Such thing as leprechauns. This is why Santa Claus doesn't make half the people mad. We know he doesn't exist. Yeah, sure, he distracts from Jesus, but he doesn't exist. What? He's not real. And we don't have organizations dedicated to spreading information about how it's not real, writing...
Yeah, because we also don't have a guy out there called, you know, Elf Joe preaching that Santa Claus is real to a bunch of people. Like, there's no counter reaction to a myth if there's no initial person pushing the myth. Everyone knows Zeus is made up. Everyone knows unicorns are made up. Everyone knows leprechauns are made up because there's no one out there proselytizing those things. There's no one out there trying to browbeat and manipulate and fearmonger their fellow human beings into believing in those things, whereas there are those factors present in this God equation. So once again, it's just not a fair basis of comparison.
Books about how they're not real because they're not real, and we all know that. The fact that you're mad at something, the fact that you're against something is actually evidence that it exists, which is kind of...
The fact that I'm against something is evidence that it exists? That's a very strange standard of evidence. Because I could be against a great number of things that don't exist. If I'm watching a television show, there might be a character that I don't like, and I could be against that character. One example that springs immediately to mind is I was watching the show Dexter, and I always had a particular disdain for the character of La Huerta on that show, and I was against her, and I always hoped every season that this would be the season where she finally dies. Does that mean La Huerta actually exists? I mean, she must, right? I'm against her. So...
of hysterical backfire for the whole atheist worldview. They wouldn't be upset about this. They wouldn't be talking about this if it wasn't real. So
we're talking about this to counter you. We are a reaction to you. If there was no you, there would be no us. I mean, there would be, but we wouldn't be vocal about it. It would be treated the same as everything else. It is the fact that you take the stage and say, God is real, and this is his will, and this is what he wants, and this is what you must do. It is because you do that that we say, nah. If we all just agreed, nah, then there would be no need for further discussion. It would just be like yet another thing that we all agree is made up. So... we're not devoting all this time to God because we know he's real and we're desperate to prove him wrong. We're devoting all this time to the discussion of God because you are. And you vote. And you have an agenda. And you have things that you would like to see happen in society. And you have people that you are against. And you have tax-exempt status in this country. and you want your rules to be plastered on the classroom wall, and you want the teachers to lead the students in your prayers. We are a reaction to all of that stuff, moron. Do you understand? Is that really so hard to comprehend? You do not do my beard justice, sir. Shave it off of your ridiculous face.
Really fun fact to start your day off with, the reason they're mad about it.
Okay.
And the reason I say that atheists are mad at God, that they don't believe in him, what they're essentially trying to do is get back at God for not doing things the way they want. Most people, when you talk to them about God and you're like, well, hey, why don't you believe in God? Here's how that conversation will go 90% of the time.
Okay, well, here's how it would go with me. Why don't you believe in God? There's no evidence that he exists. Conversation over. Maybe they present evidence, and then I say, I don't consider that evidence because this or that. But what this guy is about to say is something completely different. He's about to say that, that my answer is going to be something like, well, why is there suffering, or some nonsense like that, which is not my answer. Because the suffering thing doesn't really even exclude the possibility of God. I mean, the fact that there's suffering in the universe could just be explained by the idea that God's a dick. That God is a piece of shit that hates us and laughs as we, writhe in agony here on this miserable ball of shit. That could be the case. So really the argument of from suffering, which I think he's about to make, maybe he'll go a different direction and surprise me, but that doesn't really disprove God. So that's not my reason for disbelieving in God. My reason for disbelieving in God is that I've never seen any compelling evidence that he is real or exists or has any sort of supernatural influence or dominion over this world.
Well, if God was so good, why bad things happen? So either he's not good or he's not.
Man, it's amazing how I just continuously know what you're going to say. Could it be because I've heard this 1,000 times before? Or maybe I'm psychic. Maybe I'm getting a message from God, right? Yeah, maybe God has given me the gift of sight.
Not powerful. What they do is they hit you with the problem of evil. Philosophical conundrum for a good while. If God is love, if God...
No, I don't hit you with the problem of evil because of the reason I just explained. The problem of evil is not a good atheistic argument. It's not even really an atheistic argument at all, because the problem of evil can be solved just by saying God is evil. Why is there evil if there's a God? Well, maybe God's evil. Problem solved. And it doesn't involve saying there's no God. So the argument of the problem of evil, problem of suffering, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't really get us out of God territory, because you could still just say God is real, but he's a douchebag, or he likes to watch us suffer, or at the very least, he's testing us or some nonsense. So I don't favor that argument at all. I mean, if anything, that's a distant secondary argument that I would make about the moral nature of the God that Christians worship. But it would be the same sort of thing to me as like an analysis of a fictional character. Like, I'm going to analyze the character of God the same way I'd analyze the character of Voldemort or something, or Darth Vader. But, obviously there'd be a little bit more to it because people don't go around worshiping Voldemort and Darth Vader. At least I don't think many do. Whereas many people worship God. So there is a little bit more of an oomph to it. But that's really about the character of Christians. That's not about the existence or non-existence of God. The existence or non-existence of God hinges entirely upon the fact that there's no good evidence that he exists. No one has ever demonstrated it empirically or scientifically in any way, shape, or form. No one has provided any evidence for it other than very old, eyewitness testimony from very biased sources. And all religions possess that. The Quran possesses accounts of, miracles performed by Muhammad and how he spoke with angels and so on and so forth. And the Torah, Talmud, same deal. People talking to God, getting instructions from God. Every religious text. I mean, the Bhagavad Gita, probably. I haven't read it, but I'm sure it also contains mysticism and many elements of certain sects of Buddhism and so on and so forth. All religions basically have these elements of the fantastical and these remarkable eyewitness testimonies of crazy things that have happened. And, we live in a day and age where we know that we can't even trust the things we read that just happened. We know that people are willing to lie and distort reality about events that are happening now. And yet we're supposed to believe testimonies that are thousands of years old, that have been edited by despots, that have been specifically chosen as part of an official compendium of stories that are designed to convince you that this thing is true, that predate any sort of idea of modern science or the scientific method or anything of that nature, that are really from a pre-Enlightenment society. And we're supposed to look at that and be like, oh, wow, yes, this is great evidence. This really convinces me of that the entire nature of the universe is something other than what it appears to be, because some ancient folk in the desert saw a magic man go, I am God. Like, if you are convinced by that, you're a fool. The fool hath said in his heart that there is a God.
God is good, is God is powerful. Why do bad things happen in the world? There are a lot of answers to that. My favorite being that God is using man's sinfulness to display his glory and love for us in an even brighter way.
It's just like a contrast thing, yeah. When a bunch of human beings butcher each other and rape each other and torture each other and all that horrible cruelty and disgusting evil happens in this world, that's just to give that's just a nice black matting around the beautiful, pristine whiteness of God's love. I mean, what a depraved sentiment, right? I mean, makes Adolf Hitler look like Mr. Rogers, this God.
Way. You can't see light if there's no such thing as darkness. There's an equal and opposite thing for everything. That's one of my favorite answers for the problem of evil. We can go into depth into that more. But atheists are angry at God for not doing things the way they want them done. So
I'm not angry at God for not doing things the way I want them done, because there is no God. You want to know who I'm angry at? It's people like you who refuse to set this childishness aside and live in a world of reason and critical thinking and so on and so forth. And I'm not even someone who is rigid about this. Like, if you want to have some eccentricities and some irrationalities and so on and so forth in your personal life, go right ahead. I mean, I have some. When I am at the casino, I got a good feeling about number 13, baby. You know? It's not a feeling rooted in reason, but that doesn't affect anybody but me. That's my money on my number that I have a special feeling about. I'm not preaching that. I'm not trying to legislate that. I'm not trying to use that as a cudgel to beat other people over the head with. I'll do tarot card readings for myself. I'll look at the tarot cards and I'll interpret them and stuff. And I use it as a introspective diagnostic tool, right? But there is an element of mysticism there. And sometimes you get cards that really line up in an interesting way, and you say to yourself, ooh, maybe there's something to this. Little spooky wooky. You know, or a Ouija board or something like that. You know, a little lighthearted, personal life only mysticism, irrationality, spiritualism, whatever, in its proper context, I got no problem with, and I couldn't. But don't dogmatize it. Certainly don't legislate it. Certainly don't use it as an argument for why you should be able to control and manipulate other people and why you know what's best for them, because, of course, you are not speaking for yourself. You are a vessel of this divine presence out there. You understand the will of the creator of the universe, and therefore we must obey you. Because really, this God that these guys keep talking about is not really an entity out there in the cosmos. This God they're talking about is an entity right in front of us on this screen. In fact, look at him. He's got a long, godly, flowing beard, just like yours truly, and he's standing out there amongst the stars. This guy has basically presented himself as God because he knows that that's really the will that he represents. He wants to use the concept of God to get you to obey him, to get you to live your life by his standards, by his credo. And whatever version of Christianity this guy ultimately espouses is his choice. It's not God's choice. If there is really this all-powerful, all-knowing God who has set the standard, then what's with all these different denominations of Christianity? What's with all this arguing? Wouldn't they all just agree with the inerrant word of the perfect living God? What's with all the division? It kind of seems like maybe these ideas don't so much come from God, but they come from man. And that God is just something that we've all agreed upon. Well, not me, but something that all of these folks have agreed upon as a mutual shared fantasy, so that they can give their otherwise irrational arguments a little bit more oomph. Because think about it, a lot of the stuff these people say has no connection whatsoever to anything in reality. You know, women can't get abortions. Why? Well, because God said no. They can't actually make a reasonable, rational argument about it. You know, when you look at the cognitive functions of a fetus, there's nothing unethical about terminating that. There's no sentience there. There's no self-awareness there. There's no sense of identity there. So there's no actual basis in reason to not destroy the fetus if it's an inconvenience or an imposition. So they have to make up this God stuff. And they don't even care that there's nothing scripturally that is against abortion. They're fully willing to just make up stuff because the whole thing's made up anyway. So why not make up new stuff? There's barely anything in the Bible that condemns homosexuality or trans people or abortion. And yet that's the three main things that these Christian folks talk about. Why is that? Because it has nothing to do with God. It has everything to do with them and their socio-political movement, their plan to control society, to control the rest of us, to be the social adhesive that we must all stick to and obey. That's the agenda and objective here. So let's be clear, sir. What I'm talking about when I say God, I'm not saying the big guy up there, because I don't think he's up there. And if he is, he's nothing like what you say. Probably doesn't even have a gender like that. What I'm saying is you.
Start dealing with an atheist, what I like to do is look at classical apologetics for starters, and then move into presuppositional apologetics.
I unplugged my headphones there. Maybe God did it. God unplugged my headphones trying to stop me. But little did he know I could plug them back in. I have the power.
I'm going to talk about what those two things are in just a minute.
The Bible, no, you're absolutely right, Tucker. I mentioned that. I mentioned the Bible never condemns abortion. Furthermore, the Bible supports abortion. The only mention of the Bible, I've mentioned this a few times, is the passage about the bitter waters, right? Go look up. I don't remember the exact passage. I think it might be in Exodus or one of the older books, but just go type in Bible, abortion, bitter waters. You'll find it. It's a verse about how if a man suspects his wife of cheating, bring him to the priest. The priest will give her the bitter waters, and she will miscarry the baby, which is, guess what, folks? An abortion. And guess how the Bible feels about it? It's fine with it. It likes it, in fact. So the only mention of abortion in the entire Bible is a pro-abortion passage, and yet these people act like there's nothing that makes God more upset. Because it's not about what God thinks, it's about what they think. God is just a force multiplier for their terrible, irrational, no basis in reason, completely based in emotion arguments.
In fact, the presuppositional is my secret weapon, and I'm excited to tell you about that. Classical apology.
I can't wait for your secret weapon, buddy. I mean, right now I feel like I'm doing pretty well, but when you unveil that presuppositional secret weapon, I am sure that I will be just reduced to fucking cinders, man. I cannot wait for you to show me that presuppositional secret weapon that you got as your little ace in the hole. For after all these other, you lull me into a false sense of security with all these completely lame, stupid arguments that I've heard a million times before, but then, wham! Hit me with that presuppositional secret weapon, baby.
There's several great arguments to come across this. My favorite argument is the watch in the field argument. And so when I...
Oh, God. I'm in hell. You know what? There is a God. There is a God. This guy just proved it to me, because only the devil would subject me to the same tired, shitty, refuted already 12 trillion times arguments over and over and over again. Only the devil would do this to me. And if there's a devil, then surely there's a God. This is the TJ-logical argument for God. The fact that here's the argument. Let me lay it out crystal clear here. The fact that there are morons like this continuing to make these shitty Christian apologetics arguments must be to torture me. And the fact that I'm being tortured to that extent proves that there is a devil. And the fact that there's a devil proves that there is a God. Therefore, God is real. Boom. The blind watchmaker frickin' nonsense. Oh, yeah, the watch on the beach, right? Or the watch in the woods. Oh, my God, it's so complex. It must have had a creator. Even though well, let's let him make it. Then I'll refute it for the 12 billionth time. Go ahead, lay it out for us. Even though we all know it and we've all heard it. And it's about the oldest, moldiest chestnut in the goddamn room. Lay it out. For the 675 zillionth time. Thank you.
I dealt with some atheists actually on the boardwalk of New Jersey not too long ago. I used this illustration. I said, if you were going in a field and you found a watch in that field, how do you think that watch got there? And they both said, somebody must have dropped their watch. And I said, what? You mean you don't think this is a watch field? And if I fertilize it and plow it and water it, that it'll start growing Rolexes and I'll get rich harvesting my watches? And they're like, that's stupid. And I'm like, exactly. So the fact that there's something that's clearly designed in the middle of a field where we know if you left a barn out in that field for 100 years, it'd just disintegrate into nothing. We know that for a watch to be there, someone dropped the watch. We know there's a God because we have intelligently designed things all around us. We know these things don't pop up from nothing. We've never been walking around the road and bam, molecules align to give us a new car. It doesn't work that way.
You're right, it doesn't. And no one ever said it did. And by the way, even as far as the terrible watchmaker argument goes, you laid it out crappily. The argument is supposed to be, look at this watch in the middle of the field or the middle of the beach or wherever landscape you like best. Look at how complex it is. Therefore, it must have been made by a creator. Someone must have made it, right? Right. Okay. Well, what about this tree? Is this tree not also complex? Is this rock not also complex? Are these other things around us not also complex? Therefore, they too must have had a creator. Except here's the problem with the argument, which, by the way, once again, you failed to lay out well at all. The problem with the argument is that we don't know a watch is created because it's complex. We know a watch is created because we know that a watch is created. We know that there are watchmakers and watch factories. We know, even if we didn't know specifically about the existence of a watch, we would still be able to recognize human craftsmanship because of all the straight angles and the mechanical parts and such. We would know that that is an artificially created item. But you know who doesn't know that's an artificially created item? Like a dog or something. A dog comes across a watch in a field and a rock in the field. He doesn't know that one was formed naturally and one was constructed by human beings. The dog has no concept of that because he's completely innocent to the knowledge that we bring into the situation. So it has nothing to do with complexity. And no one has ever said, you dimwit, that molecules spontaneously come together to just form a thing right before your eyes. No one has ever said that. No one's ever said that, oh, a bunch of molecules just went together and formed a tree real quick. These are gradual processes that take a very fucking long time.
And so even atheists have to apply their own logic to try to understand these things. And I always challenge the atheists, hey.
No, I don't believe for a second that you've ever actually challenged an atheist. You might have attempted to challenge an atheist, but you've never actually been a challenge to anything other than maybe 10-piece chicken nuggets at McDonald's.
If you wouldn't use this logic to explain a watch in a field, why would you use this logic to answer away your problem of an eternal destination and God that immediately affects you right here on Earth?
If I found a watch in a field, I would know that it is a watch because I know what a watch is, because I know about watchmakers and watch factories. I don't need to logically explain. Like, I literally can use the exact same logic. If you really think about it, I walk into a field. There is a watch by a tree. I look at the watch. I recognize that is a thing that was built by man. I look at the tree. That is a thing that occurs in nature. I use the exact same logic, which is foreknowledge of the thing that I'm looking at. Now, if you just erased my entire memory of everything and I walked into that same clearing and I saw the watch and I saw the tree, I would have no idea where either of them came from. I'd look at the watch and be like, I don't know. Look at the tree. I don't know that either. It's the foreknowledge that gives me the insight to know these things. Obviously, like,
and they usually just kind of blow that off or whatever, and that's fine. That's their issue.
Yeah, that's what I did.
But here's the secret weapon, and here's what I like to point people to. So number one is every atheist deep down actually believes two things.
Okay.
They know they have an eternal destination, and they know they are guilty before God.
Since we're just making bold declarations about everything that other people feel and think, there's two things every Christian knows. One, God is a lie, and two, that beard looks fucking stupid on you. Only looks good on me, my man. Sorry. You just ain't got the gravitas to pull it off. You know, when I have this beard confers a certain degree of whimsy, but also a certain air of sophistication. you know? And I pull it off, and I stroke it well, and I do very beautiful things with it, and I twirl around my finger sometimes, and I stretch it out, and I use it as a tool of contemplation. And for you, it just looks like a gangly sack of overgrown pubes, you know? It doesn't suit your face. And that's one thing that you as a Christian know. The other thing being there's no God, and there never has been, and there never will be.
This is your secret weapon because the Bible tells us about it in both of these verses.
Well, I didn't want to get into that peng media. You guys can't see it because I guess the word pegging is not allowed or something, but there is someone in the chat, Peng Media, or Peng Media, or whatever the hell. I don't know how you pronounce their name, but there is a third thing that all Christians know. And it's something I didn't want to get into, but I guess we got to do it. All Christians secretly, deep down, all know they want to be pegged. They all want to be pegged. And, you know, not just by some little, you know, starter one either. They want to be savaged, okay? I don't know what it is about Christians specifically and very large pegging implements, but that is their thing. And look, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I can understand the Christians. I share a little bit of that, you know, so maybe there is a little scintilla of Christianity even in me, because I get it. But that is true of all Christians, not true of all atheists.
We know that the law of God is written on the heart of man. And we know that every man...
Oh, yeah, we know that. We know that. That's true. That's why there's so much disorder and confusion in the world, because, you know, I mean, think about this. The law of the world is written on the heart of man. Okay. Then what's all the division about? What's all the strife about? What's all the conflict about? Because look, in nature, when there is a law, the law is unbreakable. I cannot break the laws of physics. I cannot break the law of the conservation of energy or whatever. You know, I can't do that. I can't just choose to ignore gravity at my leisure. But somehow I can easily ignore God's law. Just don't do it. Just don't obey it. So how is it really a law then? Because the actual laws of nature are the laws that can't be broken. I can't just choose to, I'm just going to run faster than the speed of light now. Whee! I can't do it. It's an unbreakable law. Those are the actual laws of nature. There is no law of nature that says no abortion. We are perfectly capable of doing that.
Man knows that he is destined for an eternity somewhere, and they know that deep down. So I actually really prefer a Ray Comfort based style of evangelism. If you are not familiar with Ray Comfort,
Oh, I'm very familiar. He's a nice guy.
Living Waters YouTube channel is kind of the main place I go to see that. I've watched.
Anyway. Was that the secret weapon? We got to the secret weapon yet, or
a bunch of their videos with youth groups and stuff to help train kids in
evangelism.
But Ray Comfort has a great way. He works people down the idea that they can make mistakes, and so they shouldn't be the ultimate authority. He works down the ideas of we all stand guilty before God and we need a savior. He's really great at that. But when you are approaching an atheist, here's my thing. Number one, you need to know they actually believe God exists, and that's something you need to keep in your back pocket. They're mad at God. Look for the hurt, because when you can find the
I hurt myself today 'cause I know that God is real, but I got to deny him so I can do whatever I feel, and I'll abort them all, every single fetus. I'll even deport my little cousin, whose name would have been Cletus. No one in my family would have been named Cletus.
Emotional force that's driving.
I don't think so anyway. I hope not.
their argument and realize that this is not a logic-based argument, because logically, duh, there's a God. This
logically, duh, there's a God. Okay. Is that the secret weapon? Was that the knockout? You going, logically, you could just say whatever you want. Just proceed it with logically.
is an emotionally based argument. That's where you're actually going to minister to the person. And there's a good chance that if you can minister to them and their hurt and their need and their anger, that's actually going to be a better place to start before trying to logically convince them of constructs they're not capable.
Don't approach him with no sort of logical argument. Just come at him emotional. Yeah, I wonder why you're giving that advice. He's trying to make it seem like, oh, well, you know, they just can't handle the logical arguments. We've already proven that that's bullshit. So what this is really about is don't bother trying to make a logical argument to an atheist, because if you as a Christian get into that logical argument, you will lose. So what you got to do is try to go for this emotional angle and hope you just get a emotionally weak person. Got it. Prey on the vulnerable. Very on brand for Christianity.
Of understanding, because they're so emotionally involved in their hurt and their pain. So start by ministering to them there. Maybe you want to use some classical apologetics to frame the argument and make a worldview where they understand logically, scientifically, the best explanation for how we're here is that there was a God, but then move into your secret weapon.
Oh, that's crazy. It's weird that scientists don't know that, you know? You would think the scientists would be the first people to jump on board the obviously best scientific explanation of magic. But I guess not. I guess the scientists are dragging their feet on that bit of science, you know?
Deep down, they know they have an eternal destination. Deep down, they know they have...
I hope my eternal destination is a realm of fucking giant jiggling asses, you know? And I just want to... You ever played that game Sonic Spinball, and you know the whole screen spins and you bounce around from thing to thing and score points and stuff? I want to be the spinball, and I just want there to be giant asses everywhere. I'm just bouncing. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I just bounce around for all eternity. Bouncing from ass to ass. That'd be a good eternity. If that's what it's like, please let me know. I'll sign up for that. Just tell me who to kill.
Violated the laws of God, and they need help. And then we just have faith, because the best answer for all of our problems is, in the words of Andre Crouch, Jesus is the answer for the world today. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way.
This was the secret weapon, huh? Jesus is the answer for the way the world be. Jesus did answer, so give that Jesus to me. All right. Yeah, let's do it. You know what? Sure thing, man. You got me. Let's do this. I'm on board. I'm a Christian now.
Know that you do have the answer. The Bible has the answers to their questions. There's no question an atheist can ask you that the Bible cannot answer well.
Really? Is that true? Okay. So, like, if I ask the Bible to describe the law of general relativity, it's going to have that all laid out. You know, I think science is still struggling to explain, like, we still don't have a quantum theory of gravity, last I checked. So maybe that's in the Bible somewhere. Can you give me the chapter and verse that explains quantum gravity, please? I would like to know where exactly in the book that is so that I can review it and report back to science.
Now, I didn't say that you can't answer well, but the wonderful thing about engaging with atheists is they'll challenge your worldview. They'll send you back to the Bible. The answers are there, and with help, maybe you need some help, but maybe you find them on your own. Your faith gets strengthened, and you get to learn how to do it better. Yeah. So confidently go witness to atheists, knowing these things. If I've been
amazing. I don't know what the secret weapon was. I'm assuming it was the black dude singing. Good on you. It was the most convincing thing you did. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the truth. Jesus is the light. I think you really you changed hearts and minds today, buddy. You changed hearts, you changed minds, you changed souls. You can keep the beard. You know what? I'm feeling so gracious right now. I will allow you to keep that beard, even though it looks ridiculous on you, even though you can't pull it off at all, even though you don't got the gravitas, you ain't got the grit, you ain't got the gumption. Nonetheless, I'm going to let you keep it just because I like you, kid. You're an okay guy. You're a good sport. So thank you for being that. And best of luck to you in heaven with Jesus.
Be a man.